So, if you can hear me. Are
It
you recording?
says recording, it just didn't announce it.
Oh, okay. All good as long as we're recording. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Power Hour after a longer than expected break. But we are back with one of the best in our industry, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet our colleague and my dear friend, Lee Lender, because by every standards, she's a top producer, closing over 60 to 80 deals every year. What one actually I respect most about Lee is that she's one of the most direct, no BS people I know. She tells it exactly as it is, what's working, what's not working. And that's exactly what agents need to hear right now. With nearly 2 decades in real estate, Lee has built an incredible reputation around the GTA through honest advice, sharper negotiation skills, smart strategy, and consistent execution. She's helped hundreds of families buy and sell homes, and she owned and operated her own boutique brokerage and now leads the Lee Lender at a group at Real. And we will take questions at the end if we have the time. So please stay tuned. And Lee, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I don't sell 60 to 80 houses, but I maybe sell around 50 houses a year on my own. So we don't want to
On
exaggerate.
you, 100%. We want to tell it is exactly as it is.
Yeah.
I actually grouped quite a number of questions for you, but before we dive
Yep.
in, let us know what area you're actually serving for anyone that's looking for a great referral agent to service their clients, as well as a little bit about your background and how you started in real estate and why real estate.
So my area is York region. The area I do the very most in is the town I live in, which is East Gwillimbury. But I do any area within the small pocket that I feel confident representing my clients in. Um, what got me into real estate? Interesting question. So we have owned our own real estate for many years, and often when the experience was happening when we were buying or selling, I wasn't very happy with the experience. So I decided to get my real estate license. It was really just to represent myself, my parents, some of my family. And then the first year went very well for me, and I just got that taste of that feeling of helping people and that utopia that people felt when it went away. And after that, I was just kind of hooked on it. My mom said I was a born negotiator, so don't know if that was true or not, but that's what started it almost 20 years ago.
Got it. And I'm happy you mentioned that, when you started, what exactly, because you said it worked really well for you when you started. What exactly you did in your first 12 to 24 months in real estate that was different than the average agents that allow you to break in the market?
I think I did everything different than the average realtor does. I'm always happy to listen to everyone's advice and opinions, and I would have conversations with everybody. And my manager at the time told me what you have to do is you have to write a letter. That's what we did back in the day. We wrote letters, and you have to email or write letters to everybody that you know and ask them for business. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I am going to work with strangers. What if I suck? I said, no, absolutely not. I'm not asking anybody I know for business. I'll wait till they see me succeed and then they can ask me to work with them. So I spent my first 2 years open housing every Saturday and Sunday. And I would wake up on Monday, I would go into the back office. I worked with Royal LePage. I would find all the listings that I felt like if I was at that open house, I would know more about real estate than the buyer that was coming in. And I would contact the listing agent. At the time, we didn't have realtor.ca, so we had to pay for advertising in the paper. And I would say, I'll open house your listing for these days. I'll advertise it in the paper. And so I did that every Saturday and Sunday. People would come in. I used to be a hairdresser. I owned my own hair salon for many years. And with my clients, I learned that they come in, you don't just write notes about their color formula, you write notes about what you talked about. And then you read it before they come in and you ask them again about how it went. And that's how you make a relationship. So I did the same thing with my business and real estate. I would write notes at the open houses of what they said, and then I would send them a personalized handwritten note and say, I hope your little girl's birthday went well. If there's anything I can ever do. And so all my business from my first year all came from open houses and people I met at open houses.
Amazing. And it's funny because my next question was about what your daily schedule looked like at the time. And you just kind of dive into it. You were basically just looking for the open houses at the beginning of the week, then you advertise it, then you execute the open house, then you follow up with everybody that came at the open house after thoroughly collecting information about their wants and needs and their personality and what they want.
The other thing I did is I spent a lot of time really understanding the inventory. So I would book agent inspections, and I would go and I would look at the other houses in the area. Since I didn't have many of my own buyers yet to go and see the houses, I wanted to know the houses. I wanted to understand them. So, my job was really to look at MLS and then go book appointments and go and see them and then watch what they sold for. We also did a lot of agent open houses at the time. Up until COVID, they were very, very active in our area. It was usually Thursday or Tuesday, and you could go in and you could see the inventory. And so for me, I did that. I made relationships with the other realtors when I was there, and then I would watch what they sold for, and then that's how I started to learn inventory and pricing. And you can't just do that off of MLS, right?
100%. And I think it's important. It's something that it's not as popular right now after the COVID happened, where agents actually in the group, they go and preview properties. And I want to just ask you just a little bit for people that maybe are newer in this industry or they're not doing that. What's the reason behind previewing properties?
So back then, it was so that I could really understand the pricing strategies. For me, I was looking at everything. How does the agent present the property? What does it look like? What do the photos look like? What does a write-up look like? What does the pricing strategy look like? But then I would watch what that house sold for. And so then that would give me an idea. Okay, they listed for, back in the day, I think my first house I sold might have been 189,000 in Keswick. So, what do you get for 189,000? And if it was listed for 189,000, did it sell for 179? Did it sell for 149? So what helped me then is then if I ever came into a listing appointment that was anything that was comparable to that, I actually had that house to speak about, and I wasn't just, speaking off of looking at MLS, because as realtors, we never show the worst part of a house. We always show the best part of a house. So I wanted to know all the facts. And I came from a business where I was the one that everybody came to me and asked me for advice. They couldn't figure out a hair color or a formula for a client. They would call me. I taught hair color. So it was a lot for me to go into a career where I was the one who had to ask questions. And it was an ego thing for sure, but I just decided I would never have to ask the same question twice. So I am a note taker, and I could go back to any deal I did and say, oh, okay, I remember when I had to go to my manager and ask this question, and this was the answer. So that's the same with looking and previewing properties. I wanted to know and I wanted to understand. And now, why does it matter? For all the same reasons. Like, I want to know what these houses actually look like, and I want to be able to speak to them, either if I'm at a listing appointment or if I'm at an open house and someone calls me. I always say, when an out of town agent comes and brings me an offer, my skill and what I bring to my clients is you can't out negotiate someone who's actually been in every one of those houses. So these realtors will tell me about a comparable that was 3 streets over, and I'll say, oh, like when you were in that house, did you notice that it backed onto the water tower? And like, oh no, I never showed it. Oh, you didn't show it. I did show it. Right. And so I think that's the difference. Like, if you want to be a true professional, act like a true professional and know your inventory, and houses are our inventory.
100%. What are your non-negotiable daily, weekly standards of today for you? Not when you started, but today.
So working out is a daily non-negotiable for me. My oldest grandson was born 9 years ago, and I've lost 100 pounds since he was born, and I've completely changed my whole lifestyle. So working out, no matter what my day looks like, is a non-negotiable. Communicating with my assistant on everything that's going on, communicating with my team on everything that's going on, and then constant communication with any clients I'm working with or getting ready to work with, all non-negotiables.
Got it. And what are the three activities that you feel like it's actually driving most of your income right now, that you continue doing it? And if you feel like if I stop these three, probably slowly, my business will start to dissipate.
I think that keeping in touch with all of my past clients, I'm really good at that. And I think something that's helped me with that a little bit is social media, because I do have it set up so that I have in my database, I have it set up with how often I'm going to contact these clients, whether it's their 3-month contacts, 6 months contacts, 1 month contacts. And when I say contact, that's my direct contact. That doesn't count all of the extra touch points that we're doing all through the year to make sure we're communicating with these clients. But social media helps because maybe somebody's had a baby, maybe someone's got married, like just be able to send a quick message on social media and be like, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. It does keep you top of mind. So that's something that if I stopped doing, I think that my business would slow. And then I have advertising that I have done in the East Gwillimbury area for I think about 13 years. And if I stopped doing that, I do think slowly my business would dwindle also. What would be the third thing if I stopped doing it? I guess listing houses, because I mean, if you list houses, what you want people to hear in everything you're doing is, I see you everywhere. So however you think you see me everywhere, whether that's a sign, whether that's social media, whether that's my advertising, whatever that is, I think that's all part and parcel of that.
Mhm. So I think I just want to go back just for a little bit on your database, because you mentioned something that I think it's very important, and a lot of agents are actually reluctant on doing. You have your touch points with your database through many different channels of marketing, including social media and touches, but you do actually get in touch with them. Like you pick up the phone, your team picks up the phone and offers them services and help. And I just want to just dive a little bit deeper into that. How often do you connect with your database outside the touches, such as emails, events, client appreciation events, and the social media? How many times, a client that sold and bought with you will receive a phone call from you?
So I've broken my data into what I call ABC clients. So the clients that I know love me, will refer me, have used me multiple times, I am contacting them every 3 months. We have that set up through Follow Up Boss. I get an email that says these are the people that you're supposed to be in contact with this week. And I actually communicate with them however they communicated with me. So one of my questions when I start working with a client is, how do you prefer to be communicated with? And is that a text? Is that an email? Is that a phone call? And however they tell me they want to be communicated with, I communicate with them like that. And that continues. So if someone is a real phone person, then I'm going to pick up the phone. And what you said is that I contact them and I offer them a service. Actually, don't. I contact them to say, how are you? How are things going? How is your life? What is new? I don't say to them, do you know anyone who wants to buy or
Mhm.
sell a house? Or all my touch points are already saying that to them. They're already saying like, here's any information if you need someone. And my joke is always, I've got a guy, and I've got a guy for you for whatever you need for as long as you need it. So if you need flooring, if you need roofing, if you need windows, contact me anytime. But my relationship with my clients is so ongoing. I helped some people who I helped buy a house 15 years ago. And when they brought me into their house, and I visited them a bit through that time frame, but not a ton, it felt like we hadn't missed a beat because we'd been in touch over the years so many times, when their kids were born, when they changed jobs. It just felt like nothing had changed in 15 years. And when we sat down and I said, I'm going to go through my presentation, a lot has changed in 15 years. He said, I don't need your presentation. Where do we sign? What are we listing for? That's the best feeling. I was in and out in 30 minutes. And I called my assistant after and I was like, you have to love clients that just trust you completely. And that's because that relationship has been built and never forgotten after those 15 years.
Got it. So if I were to look at what you say to summarize with your database, first of all, you have people that you contact them the way they like to be contacted. Second, there's a lot of marketing that reminds them of the fact that you're in real estate. But the conversation, when it's a one-on-one conversation, is really a personal conversation of how they are as people, not as clients. I just want
100%.
perfect. And you said also something very interesting that I stand behind always, and I insist over and over again, listings. What's your opinion on listings and why people should become, or do you recommend people that should become listing agents?
For me, listings, I think what they do is they keep your market share in your market. So the fact that people are seeing my signs, it's interesting that people don't necessarily notice if there's a sold sign or not on it. They just notice your sign. So in every market, you still want listings. And you want to be sure, because from a listing, we're always getting other business from that listing. And it gives you the opportunity, if we're doing open houses, our team is big on open houses, and we have a whole process on how we do open houses. And we're not spending 2 hours sitting there, looking at our iPhone. We're there to sell our client's house and to make relationships with other people. And so if you don't have listings, it's very hard to have that reach. And I think that it gives a momentum. Like when my sister and I, my sister's on my team, Glenda, and we did an open house for a new listing that we had in Holland Landing. And I thought it was going to be very busy. And so I said, I'll come with you and do it so that we can manage it together. We're very respectful of how that process is managed for our client's home. And, to be able to talk to clients and say, we have 7 other listings coming in East Gwillimbury in the next month. And if you would like to know early ahead of time, we will also collaborate with your realtor if they want to know. Like, that momentum just keeps things moving and just shows that you are, a competitor in that market.
Quick question. If you were your business not to come from listings, and it would be just based on people that bought with you, that you met at the open houses, and develop your business through your sphere alone, where would your business be? Would it be 50% less than what it is today? Would it be 20% less or 80% less? If you didn't have that as a bucket of one of your buckets of generating business?
I'm not 100% sure what you're asking me. Are you asking me what my percentage to listing to buying is?
Yeah,
or
for example,
yeah.
not necessary listing of people that took you whatever they are because they worked with you before, but related to your own neighborhood that you have, that you develop, your presence as a listing agent. If you didn't go that route of establishing yourself in that neighborhood, and you would have just worked with your sphere, and whatever they take you, you would drive 2 hours there, 3 hours there, servicing a client. How do you think your business would have looked like, versus establishing yourself as a listing agent within an area,
Right.
let's say farming, if you want to call it old school farming?
Right. I understand what you're asking. So at the beginning of my career, I would have gone anywhere to do business. And I think I felt like I didn't have any option. And then the first sort of business I got in my area, I remember being able to leave 15 minutes before the appointment, and how different that made our evening. Because when I started, my kids were young. My kids are 10 years apart. So my kids were 9 and 19 when I started. So the 9-year-old, he still needed help. I had a husband that worked a very heavy corporate job. And I remember driving to it and thinking, wow, okay, what a difference this makes. So after I took that listing, I really made a decision that I wasn't going to do business in areas that I didn't A, really know very well, but B, when it takes your time away from where I wanted to focus, which I knew was York Region and specifically Gwillimbury, you are taking time away from building that. And so for me, even if that means, everyone's got a different way of looking at what they think building is. But for me, building would be taking my son to the park and talking to other moms at the time, being involved in, going and doing a sport, sponsoring the baseball team, going for a walk, like all of those things, and being part of a community. We do a few community events every year, all of those things. That's where I wanted to focus my business. So I think, had I only done sphere of influence, I think I would have been burned out. I think I wouldn't have been able to do as good a job as I have. But now my business just keeps coming to me, and it's a very fine process that we have in place, and it allows me to continue to build in East Gwillimbury and the outskirts of East Gwillimbury, but hold on to that number one market share in East Gwillimbury with a very changing town. Because when I first started 19 years ago, the town was very people that had lived there for many, many years, and there wasn't really new build and new construction. And now we have, 3 times as many homes, and a lot of them are new construction, and a lot of those people are new to Canada, and they have their own realtors. So to be able to hold on to that market share with such a changing town has been big for me.
Got it. And
Did I answer that?
Yeah,
Did I
yeah,
answer
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Trust me, I'll push back. Um,
No, really?
I think what's important for me to understand and for everybody to understand, I've done the same thing within my career in farming in the Don Mills area in Toronto, but how did you establish yourself within the neighborhood? Because you said, I'm having my database, I'm following up with them this way, I'm taking listings, but I do a lot of marketing within my neighborhood. How that looks like?
So we have flyers that I have done in our neighborhood for 13 years, pretty much every month, the odd month here and there for whatever reason. And they're very specific flyers. But the key to it is consistency. So I've had a few people come to me and ask me, can I show them what I do? And I'm always happy to show you what I do. And I tell them what to do, and then they take pieces of it, and then they do it periodically, and then they do it for 3 months, and then they say, I didn't get any business out of it, and they stop doing it. I don't know how many years I did it before I got business, but now I will show up to people's house, especially older people's houses, and they'll have a stack like this of my monthly flyers with them. And they'll say, we got this and we appreciate the information. And they're not a sales piece, they're an information piece. And so that consistency, I think, is the difference. You can't just do things for a couple months and then change and say you're not getting anywhere. You have to keep moving forward.
Got it. And you said something important. You said, my pieces of marketing are information pieces, they're not selling, which basically you're not sending out free evaluations, sign up here. You're just sending pure information over and over to them.
Pure information over and over, and there's not one thing on it that says call me for a free evaluation, and there's none of that. And it's not just sold, and it's not just listed. It's strictly about the sales data in East Gwillimbury, and the back is always about community events happening in East Gwillimbury, and there's not anything sales on it.
Got it. And you've been
No
doing
no call to action. Zero
no
call
call
to
to
action.
action. No call
Nope.
to action. Got it. Besides the marketing with the flyers, you do marketing with billboards?
So I have one billboard that's actually on our property. And again, that's the I see you everywhere, and it doesn't cost me anything to have it there. I don't know if I would do billboards if they were costing me $500 or $600 a year. I guess it would depend on, I mean, a month. I guess it would depend on your strategy, but we do that. And then I sponsor baseball teams in the town. And when I sponsor things, I attend things. So I sponsor things my grandsons do so that I can go and be part of it. I sponsor a hockey team for my grandson. And it's always just being there and being a part of it, and people seeing you and seeing that you're just a real person that's there sponsoring people. We sponsor two big town events that we have done. I'm going to say for 15 years. We do an Easter Bunny hike, and we do a Halloween haunted hike. And we've done that for many years. And we attend those events, and we hand out gifts, and we communicate with the residents, and we say hi. And we don't just sponsor things, put our name on things, and walk away, because I think that gets you no value.
Got it. And I want to touch on something that it's different than how I built my business, but I want to bring it out because it's so important to see that two things can be true at the same time and have the same effect. You started taking listings in your neighborhood and you absolutely never picked up the phone or door knock anybody in that neighborhood. You purely done it through being involved within the community and marketing, sending that flyer every day and sponsoring events and being part of the community. I've done a little bit different. I didn't, you didn't want to call your database until you were successful. I didn't have a database to call with to begin with. And I didn't have the money to send flyers, which I started sending after I took listings. But I started by picking up the phone, literally just calling people, going just sold, just listed, the agents that had the listings, and pick up leads like that. Just to touch on that, from your perspective, you could become a neighborhood specialist and become the authority in that neighborhood without ever picking up the phone.
So I did door knock once. And it's not my gift. And I knocked on the door, and the fellow came, and he looked not very happy to see me. And so, me being jokey, I said, "Don't worry, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness." And he said, "I am." And I said, "Oh, then you shouldn't mind me knocking on your door. Are you thinking of selling your house?" And he like pointed and said, "Get off my property." And I never door knocked after. Some of my team do door knock. They're good at it. They love it. It's their gift. I think that if you ask me back to what I've done differently, I've only ever done anything in this business that truly felt like me. And I have not followed what everybody else has done. I have really done the opposite of pretty much what a lot of people have done. If it doesn't feel like me, then I think that a client is going to feel that the minute you hear it on the phone with me, you would see it on my face when you answered your door. So I think that whatever truly feels like your, I hate using the authentic self because everyone says it, but who you are. If
This
you
is
called
you.
your best friend and you said it, would they be like, "Who is this?" Or like, "Yeah, yeah, that sounds like Lee." That's the thing you need to choose, and you need to follow that and stick with it.
Yes. And I
So
love
yes, you
that
can
about you.
build a business without door knocking or cold calling.
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to mention that because I'm a huge believer that you could, if you don't have the money to send, or you don't want to wait for 3 years until the flyers kind of start to work for you, and that consistency of people keep seeing you. Another part that I think I want to mention on that, um, how hard would it be for someone to tap in your neighborhood, given that you're not dropping the ball ever, and get in there, even if they send flyers every month?
I think there is a few realtors that have tried to send flyers, and I feel that there's not consistency to it. But I don't know. I mean, never say never. I'm just going to keep doing what I do the way that I do it, and I'll always be grateful
100%.
for all the business that comes my way and the people that I can serve. Not everyone, EG has gotten really big now, and like I said before, not everybody is going to be my client, and I'm cool with
There's
that.
space
I
for
say,
everyone.
I say, bring it, bring
100%.
it.
I'm not coming an hour away to door knock there. Um, it, it's amazing to put in perspective the fact that, as a high performer, you need different buckets of selling, and getting your business from. But you also mentioned something very important. It's important of your lifestyle and having, a big portion. What would be the percentage of the business that comes from your farming area versus your database?
Oh, I think my database is probably 80% still.
80%. And
I would say it's still,
20% comes from your neighborhood, and
yes.
80% they're still taking you outside your neighborhood, or the
They
database is still
no,
within your neighborhood.
my database is pretty much within my
It,
neighborhood now
got it.
because I've done so much EG York Region business that most of it's pretty much in there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you attribute that to the fact that you farmed this area with flyers, and all of a sudden these people became buyers sellers in kind of the same area? So
Yep.
would it be fair if you look at your business, to assess it and say the fact that I established myself as a listing agent within a neighborhood basically brought my business within this area, and now they're repeat business just because you've been doing it for a long time?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis.
The reason I keep insisting is because it's
Yeah.
so important that, and that gives you the lifestyle that you just mentioned. You had the time to be with your children. You had the time to actually service your clients faster, 15 minutes away from your home, rather than going and changing a lockbox 2 hours away.
And another piece of that is that you start to make relationships with the other realtors in the area. And it's always challenging when you're dealing with a realtor that you don't know yet. And the experience of dealing with a realtor that you already do know, even if you've not done a deal together, the fact that you know each other or of each other, it does help your clients either way because you have
Huge.
that. And those things happen by clear communication, respectful communication. Even if you try to put a deal together, it doesn't do it. Let's remember, I always say I didn't build the house, I didn't buy the house, I didn't maintain the house, and I didn't live in the house. So we can keep your ego and your emotions out of it. Even if it doesn't come together, maybe the next time you do a deal with that realtor, you've at least made that communication and you have that sort of level relationship. So I
100%.
think that working in that same area all of this makes my life easier, gives me time to spend with my husband and my kids and my grandkids, because all of it makes it a smoother process than if I'm trying to do something an hour and a half away. I've never heard of the realtor. I'm having to research the area. Not that you can't, you can, but it's just not the way I want to build my business.
Yeah. Yeah. What skill do you believe is the highest paid skill in real estate as of today?
What should it be, or what is it?
What it is, not what should, what is actually the highest paid skill
I
that
think
you
it's negotiation.
negotiate?
But um, I think it's knowing how to word something to get the other person to hear what you want them to hear. It's maybe not even what you said, but it's what you want them to hear. And get them to see it your way. And there's a way to do that, that at the end of it, everyone still likes each other.
Yeah.
And I think that as direct as I am, you have to communicate with people at the level where they're at, and everything needs to be a respectful communication. So I think that's actually something that's really missing in our industry right now, is the respectful communication between realtors. And in every way, I think my dad's a retired minister, so I've been raised with these values, but treat people the way you'd want to be treated, whether you feel like you're in the power position or not. Be respectful.
The two of us, we were talking last week about, how a younger agent shadows you to understand and, um, potentially mimic that communication that is so important with clients, with other agents. Where agents that maybe they've been in the business for a while, but they still seem to not close transactions. And probably one of the reason is always the lack of skill on communication. Where would they be able to learn these? Because this is some people are not more natural, and I know you, and you're more like naturally comes to you to be able to communicate. But this is a learning skill. This is something that people in business of sales could actually learn. Where would they do that if, for example, they're not part of a team and shadowing someone like yourself? Where would they learn these skills? Where would you send them and say, hey, you can listen to this, read this, or whatever it is that you think that would help them to learn these skills?
So maybe my first answer will be something that really bothers me that I watch in this industry is the people that call themselves coaches. And really anybody can call themselves a coach. And I think you need to be very careful of who you're listening to and what experience they have to be telling you that. And so I would start there. Make sure that you're really vetting the people that you're listening to, and the panels these people speak on, and the podcasts they speak on, and pretty much anything. Anyone can say anything on Instagram and look like a star, or they can go on these panels. So just make sure that you're really vetting who you're listening to and what advice you're taking. And then I think there's a lot of books that you can read that could really help you with your communication with other people. And then I think it's being introspective. I think it's like looking back and saying, like, anytime something to this day doesn't go the way I hoped that it would go, whatever that looks like, I always like sit down and say, okay, what could I have done different? Where did the communication break down that I should have handled that different with whoever that is, whether that's a client or another realtor? How could I have handled that different? Sometimes the answer is I couldn't have. Sometimes that is the answer. Sometimes the answer is this is something we need to add to our process. So as a team and as a realtor, I never say things are always going to stay the way they are. I'm always trying to evolve and make it better. And that's by like breaking down any type of process we have and adding things to it all the time to say, what could we do better to communicate better with our clients and with our colleagues to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
One of the things that agents and newer agents or agents that are looking for more production, they're looking to join teams. And they're usually looking, from my experience, everybody's asking this question: do you give leads? That's the first question. It's like, do you give leads? But very rarely I see people that they're focused on, is the team leader a good negotiator? Is it the team leader a good communicator? is a team leader someone that actually could teach properly? And to me, the best value that you can take from maybe at the beginning of your career to be in a team environment, it's not the leads. It's, in my view, is not even the having an access to open house, but being able to shadow someone that could put you 10, 15 years ahead by not doing your mistakes of having poor communications with leads, with clients, with agents, but basically shadow them to see how they react, how they conduct themselves, how the business and processes and systems they're using. And I know you very well, and I think your team is very, 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 they don't even know how lucky they are to be in that room. And I'm not trying to give you compliments because we know each other. We're very no bullshit people. But to be in that room and actually listen to how you do a pre-qualification, how you talk with someone, how you create boundaries with respect in there without being, egotistic, and how you can move people down the pipeline. And that could happen not necessarily being part of a team, which is the fastest and the easiest because you get the most amount of time with that team lead, but to be in an environment where that somebody that has that experience is willing to share it with you. So I really appreciate you being here and sharing with us. I wanted to ask you, in regards to taking listings right now in today's market, what's the difference between 10 years ago when you were taking listings or even 5 years ago when you could go in a listing presentation and say, it doesn't matter how much we listed for, we're going to get $300,000 more anyway, versus today where, sellers don't have the same positioning within the market. What's the difference of what you're saying from the presentation 5 years ago and the presentation on a listing appointment right now today?
So even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been as confident as I am now 10 years later. But I have a couple of non-negotiables for dealing with clients. So if I come into a listing presentation and you think you know more about real estate than I do, you should list your own house. I'm not the girl for you. If you lie to me, we're done, because I'm taking what you say and I'm giving it to my colleagues and I have my word, and now there's, an issue between me and my colleague, we're done. And if I don't feel safe. So if I go into that situation and there's anything that makes me not feel safe, those are my three non-negotiables. My process is such now, 10 years later, that from the moment you contact me, I'm going to back that up. From the minute you start looking into me, because that's what people do, right? They go on social media, they go on my website, they're looking sort of who I am before they reach out. Then from our first call to our initial meeting, everything in there says you're hiring someone that is taking the lead in this position. There's nothing when you meet Lee Lander does it say potentially I'm going to be taking the lead. And that's okay, because that's for some clients and that's not for some clients. If you want a realtor that you're taking the lead on, then I'm not your girl and you're not my client, and God bless, wish you all the best. But if you're hiring me for the skill that I bring to the table. And yes, it's a partnership, but I am taking that professional position from the get-go. So with things how they are now, I am very careful that I'm taking listings that are priced where I think they should be priced. And I'm very communicating all the time with those clients. So by the time, if it happens, I come to them and I need to have a discussion about price reduction, they already know. They already know it's coming. It's always already something I've brought up along the way. So that communication, they know that I'm going to bring it to them straight, with no nonsense, with no fluff, just direct, clear communication. The other thing right now that's different than 10 years ago is you have to be very careful what resources you're putting into properties and what you're willing to do and not do if people are willing to listen or not listen. And so I think that over the years, the expectation of what has to happen with a listing has really grown, and that cost falls on us. And I think you really need to know your ROI and your numbers in your whole business. But from a listing point of view, how much is this going to cost me? And if it doesn't sell, how much have I spent for something I'm getting no return on? But even if I am getting the return and it does sell, what do those numbers look like? And, staging has, quadrupled, or wasn't even a thing maybe 10 years ago. And I'm not someone who does all my own staging and my own photos and all that. I don't have time for that. So I pay someone to do that. And then the way that photographers, the cost of that is gone through the roof too. And, they're doing a social media reel for you and all these things. Great. Is that really what's selling the house? And how much is that costing you? I think the key to selling a house is pricing it right.
Got it. And you mentioned something, and I want to go back to that because there's a lot of properties on the market, and I keep an eye on things. And what I like you said, be careful who you learning from. Your properties are not sitting on the market on the market in which properties are sitting, 60 to 90 days. I think with the exception of one of your clients was actually changed their plans into what's happening with their home, not because the home didn't sell. You don't have expired listings. You don't have terminated listings. Rarely you have price reductions, and they're selling in 7 days still to 14 days. What do you attribute that to?
I would just clarify that some of my listings do sit that are what I would call more unique properties. So I sell a lot of rural properties. Rural properties are not selling in 7 to 14 days. They do take a longer time, but they are selling. And last year I had 3 or 4 listings that didn't sell that I brought into this year, and I have sold them all. So they are selling. What do I attribute that to? Pricing correctly, marketing correctly, and being able to have correct conversations with realtors when they call you to discuss price, and being able to back up your price. And so when they try to say, oh, this house there that sold for this, that they've never been in and actually never seen and just looked on MLS, and you can explain that, you have to be able to have those conversations and really be able to back up your price and not just say, well, we're giving it a try. Like, I don't think we're in a market to give it a try anymore. I think we have to price where the market says that the value is, and then you need to know how to negotiate.
You said three important things. Price. Do you take overpriced properties where clients are saying, no, we want more? How do you react to that? Do you just don't take them, or what's your strategy on that?
I turned down quite a few listings. I'm not taking them if they're way overpriced. If it's a unique property and there could be some discussion on price, potentially I would take those depending on the situation. If the clients are just like not listening, then I think that's a big red flag for me, because if you're not listening with all the data I'm showing you, then you're not going to listen along the way. When I was a hairdresser and I was new in the business, I went to a conference and they said, never let your 9 o'clock appointment ruin your 10, 11, and 12 o'clock appointment. And I have brought that into real estate. So if I'm working with 15 great people and I have one person who is sucking the life out of me, what it does is it takes away all the good that I should be pouring into those 14 kind, respectful clients. And so I just don't do it anymore. As many houses as I've sold, I still do take it very personally. And I still do not sleep at night sometimes and think, is there something we could be doing different? Like, my word to these clients still really matters. And so, for whatever reason, even if they're not necessarily listening on price, I have met with them and told them I can help them achieve whatever goal they're trying to. And it's important to me that I can. So if I meet with you and you're not listening and I don't believe I can, I would rather wish you the best and leave as friends than to make you a promise that I don't feel like I could keep.
Got it. And you said also negotiation in terms of presentation and the conversation with potential agents that bring their clients. And these two are actually requiring what we were talking before, which is skills of communication to either present to your clients, to price it correctly, present it to the buyer agents to understand why you price it the way it is. But then you said something else, how you market the property. And a lot of people are like, how do you market? Like, it's on MLS. I paid $2,000 for marketing from my videographer. It's on MLS. What else can I do to market the property?
I think that a lot of people are confused what marketing the property necessarily means. So to me, it's when I sit down with my client, I am really brainstorming who is the demographic that is buying this house. Every house pretty has a demographic. Then everything that I'm doing for that house is targeting that demographic, from the staging to my write up to the way we put it on social media, to any ads we run, to any videos I send out to anybody else who has shown interest in that location. Everything is targeting that demographic. The joke is that there's no point in my 85-year-old mom seeing your ad on Facebook for your two-story, 3,500 square foot, 4-bedroom house. She is not the buyer. So it's important to us that we're targeting who that buyer is, and everything we do is targeting that. All of our branding, our signs, everything that we do is all the package of our marketing. But who we are as a team, also we have a reputation of knowing how to price houses, knowing how to sell houses, knowing how to market houses. So it really isn't just like this. It's like this.
Yeah. I think you touch on something about your reputation. People trust the product that you're selling, and they trust when you put out there what you say. And in time, by working with you, by knowing of you, they could have an honest conversation and trust your judgment, and pass it on to their clients. Last week, we were talking about something interesting that a lot of people don't do with their database. You have your database sectioned into, and I don't want to share it without you wanting to share, but I think it's important because that's where, you get that ROI into selling homes much faster. You have your database section into their wants and needs. And when you have a new property that comes up, you, even probably before, like 24 hours before it hits the market, you're sending that property to these people, which are, right now in hundreds and hundreds of people. So that adds to the services that you're bringing to your clients, that their target, like you said, you have targeted marketing to the people that actually fit the criteria of who would buy their home. Is that
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely. We do that. We're not just, putting on MLS and putting a sign in the ground and hoping for the best. We're not in that market anymore. We're in a market where you need to do everything that you can to get that house sold. And I think that that you have to think outside the box now to get it sold. So that is absolutely something we do. We have everybody put into sections. We know what areas they want to be. We know what they're looking for, and we make sure that we're sending things out. And people love to be in the know. So if you send it out to them a couple of days before it's on MLS and you tell them we have this coming, it makes you the professional.
Yeah. I want to go a little bit, and I know we're almost there, but on the financial, what was the worst financial decision you made in your business?
I don't know if I've made the worst financial decision in my business. I think I've made some poor decisions along the way in things, but I am really good at looking at my numbers and looking at return on investment and stopping it if it's not working. And so I did a course that was for online leads. So I had never done online leads. I never have done online leads, and I decided I would do this course. And it was not what it was sold to be, and which is fine. What I took out of it though was it still forced me to get onto social media. It still forced me to start doing videos. It still taught me that. So I didn't get leads out of it. I didn't like that piece of it. But I still learned from that. So I would say that you need in your business to know your numbers. And, everyone's always talking about, this producer, that producer, this GCI producer. I wish our numbers had to be announced actually what you took home. Because at the end of the day, if you could brag about making all this money, for me, I do what I do for my family and for our life and for freedom. And if I'm not going to be getting any of those things, then I would rather not be spending my money. So I think it's important that we know our numbers and we're watching them consistently.
Yeah. And you brought up something that is so dear to my soul, because I don't want to do anything that doesn't give me ROI on it, because otherwise it's just for pure of keeping busy, being busy. And I wanted to ask you, in a time like this where really having listings, it costs us so much money. Even working with buyers costs us money. Where do you see that way of taking more home. And like you said, I love that. There's people that are making $1 million and they take home 250. And everything else, it's in like huge marketing and billboards and this and that. And what actually I don't see that people understand is that when you put so much into either servicing your clients with all of the things that you want to offer to your client, when you put so much money in massive marketing and you spend $3 million in marketing just for the sake of having 150 transactions, but you're taking home less than somebody who sells 50, you still have to service the additional 100 people. And that's the math that doesn't math up with people. The math is not matching for them. You still have to service that extra 100 people. So how do you make that decision and you don't get into that rat of pushing that's happening through social media and this idea of I'm selling a lot of homes versus what's your profitability in what you're doing? And if I may ask, without being too intrusive, what's your profitability? What's your profit margin and in running a business where you yourself, you're selling 50 transactions, percentage wise?
You and I talked about percentage wise. So all I'll tell you is we have an accounting team we deal with that deals with a lot of realtors. And his comment is, I have never seen such a lean team. And I'm proud of that. And we service our clients very well, but we don't throw money where we don't need to throw money. So our profitability is very, very high. I'm very good at I make fast decisions. So I'll look at something, I'll decide whether it makes sense, and if it does, I'll do it. And if it doesn't, I won't. I won't. One thing I do is we sit down and we figure out everything that's worked for the year past. Is it working? Isn't working? What are we going to change? When people come at me, and every day someone's coming at me, asking me to sponsor this, buy this, do this new thing, I always say we make all of our financial decisions for the following year at the end of Q4. Contact me in Q4 and I will put it as one of the things we're going to discuss. 9 out of 10 times people never contact you back in Q4, but it's something that doesn't take me off the path. So I can keep going straight and I'm not getting pulled into every single shiny thing. And I think that, like, for me, everything I've done in my business, I've done from necessity. So my first hire was an assistant, and that was a necessity. And that leverages my time like nothing else does in the business. And then it's only just this year I have built what you would call a team. And I've done that out of necessity. I have too much business for me to be able to service that business the way I want. And there was obviously a lot of lost opportunity happening that my team is now reaping the benefits of that opportunity. And we're continuing moving forward. But I didn't just start a team because someone told me to start a team. I put 19 years in. I decided, like, yes, this is what the next step looks like for us. And, a team that started from someone who A, doesn't have the experience to help you, or B, like when people say, are you giving me leads? I wouldn't say I'm giving my team leads. I'm saying we're a team that's all working together to bring more business into the pot that helps us all. And so I think that that's another thing that people really need to look into. Like, what are you joining and how is that working for you? And does that fit the values of how you want your life to look?
Yeah. And you touch on something that I have here as one of my last questions. What was your first hire for people that are at that point where, they maximize their time in servicing their clients? And you just said it was an assistant.
And I think that was when I hit about 250,000 of GCI. That's when I brought an assistant in.
God. And this is a question that I always ask everyone. I know people ask you a lot of questions all the time, when in private or asking you at events. What is one question that you've been asked that you can look back and kind of stay with you? This was a smart question to be asked that you would like to share with us and share the answer, obviously, with us.
I think a question I get asked a lot is, like, how did you do it? So how did you build your business? And I'll tell you from start to finish how I started my business, but like I'm not someone who holds things close and doesn't share things. Like I don't think you can be me and I can be you, and I don't think we steal each other's business. I think the business that's meant for you goes to you, and the business that's meant for me goes to me. But I think that everyone's so wrapped up in trying to be a superstar on social media that they don't just do the things that need to be done, which is just put your head down and do the work. Find a couple things that work for you, that truly feel like you, and do them. And be a professional. If you want to be paid like a professional, act like a professional. Run your business like a professional. And don't just get pulled from thing to thing. Focus, pick the things, and just keep moving forward.
Amazing. I love that. And I truly believe in authenticity. Even when people are saying, don't do it this way or that way. And for me, it was a lot, and it still is when somebody says, oh, don't ever pick up the phone. I'm like, this is authentic to me. I'm not saying it may not work with you, and that's fine. You may do it other way. And there's so many ways to skin the cat in this industry. You don't have to copy someone. You have to figure out your own way that it's authentic for you, and it works. Well, we're at the end, and we literally have 3 more minutes. If anybody has any questions, just unmute yourself. Is your opportunity to ask her anything. And we thank you for giving your time. Anybody has any questions? Shy people here. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy. Somebody says something. Oh, says thank you. I can't see without my glasses. Yes, thank you. Thank you too. And thank you, Lee, for being here. And thank you for sharing with us. And I wish you all a great weekend. And yeah, thank you. Week. I'm already thinking about the weekend. It's Monday. Yes, talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.